following the truth, to me, I feel like jump from YouTube. Let's ask whether that's the case or not.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, okay. This is the first time I've used this program, so I couldn't
Uh,
get myself off of mute.
so that's like an evidence for my claim. So you jump from YouTube, right?
I came from YouTube, yeah.
Good.
I just saw your channel. It popped up, so I've seen you before, but I haven't
Before.
really on YouTube. I've seen your channel come up, so but I
Good.
have never obviously been here before.
Thank you, algorithm. Thank you, YouTube.
Yeah, it came from YouTube, so
Okay, good, good. Still, YouTube didn't forget me. Okay, so that's good. So let me guess. So one more thing. You're Christian?
I'm a Christian. I think that a lot of Christians wouldn't consider me to be Christian because I would be
Oh.
classified as a Unitarian Christian. So I believe that only the Father is God, and that Jesus Christ is the Messiah, the Son of God, but not God. So I classify myself as just a Unitarian
Okay,
Christian.
good.
Yeah.
So I can understand the feelings, by the way. I mean, when I was Muslim, I was also belonging in a very small group of
Mm.
Muslims, which are not thought to be Muslims by other Muslims. So
Yeah,
anyway,
I would be considered a heretic by the vast majority of
uh,
Christianity,
it was the same for
but I'm
me.
okay with that.
Okay, so but our main topic is God. So yeah, do you want to ask some questions first, or
Well,
you want me to jump?
I'll just tell you where I've come from. So I was an atheist for the vast majority of my life. So I didn't grow up Christian. I wasn't a believer from. I don't come from a religious background in that sense. So I haven't been taught this or it hasn't. Obviously, I've been aware of Christianity. It's not like I've lived in a bubble and not been aware of Christianity, but I wasn't kind of forced. It's not something that I grew up with. I came to it very late in life. I've only been Christian, I would say, 12 years or so. Um, 30 odd years of being atheist, quite staunch atheist as well, quite anti religion and Christianity. So it was a, a kind of a big flip for me to go from one place to the other. Whereas I think a lot of Christians leave, or as you say, you were Muslim. I don't know your background, but you've obviously left a faith to go to atheist. I've gone the opposite way. So
Oh, okay, that's even more interesting. So then, what made you believer of a God?
okay, so when it comes, so the question really is like, can I prove God? Can is it something that I can prove to you? And the answer to that is no. I can only speak from my own personal experience and say what convinced me that there was a God, and that I think was a time when I came to searching, uh, wanting to know if there was more to this kind of life than what I saw. I saw so much evil, so much bad within the world, and I started to go down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories and all of this kind of thing after seeing specifically a conspiracy theory documentary on 9/11. um, and then I just fell deeper and deeper into the conspiracy theory things, and then eventually I just came to the point where I just saw too much evil, too much bad in the world to believe that it was just randomness, and that the manipulation that was going on in the world convinced me that I wanted to search deeper and see if there was something beyond this. Was I just going to die and that was going to be the end of it? And so I just started to search for God, and I started to reach out to whatever God that there was. What I wasn't. It wasn't Christianity that I was searching for. I was just searching for a higher power or whatever. And I've come to Christianity as that faith that I believe in. But it was something that convinced me. It was a personal thing. So can I prove to anybody else that that God exists? Only to those that know me, I suppose, in that they see
Else.
my change in whether I can prove that God exists, or they can certainly verify that I have changed as a person. So
Mm-hmm.
I can't prove to you. I cannot prove to you that there is a God.
Okay,
No.
that kills the conversation.
Yeah, but
Okay.
what I would ask you is what would you require me to give you to prove God's existence? What would it be for me to in requirement to prove to you that there is a God?
Okay, I would require evidence that matches up with the claims
Mm-hmm.
of your God. So at least you believe that this God is all powerful, all
Yeah,
knowing, and the creator of everything, including the universe and everything inside the universe in detail. So
I do. Yeah.
he created all those things intentionally. He has
Mm-hmm.
all the power to create all those things.
Yeah.
And like this is my favorite example. I always give it in every stream that I have. And I'm sorry for that, people on YouTube, because it's boring for many of them. So when we think about such kind of a God, like it's not hard to say that, hey, this God can create an animal if he wants right now instantly, the way that he created the universe.
True.
So, for example, if right now I see a baby elephant in my room,
Mm-hmm.
I would consider it's coming from the Christian God, because now I'm talking to you and I'm telling you how I could be convinced when I'm talking to you, and your God is the Christian God. And if I see the baby elephant here in my room, I would think that, yeah,
So
that's a good
would that
evidence.
convince you that there was a God?
Yes, that would
Would
convince me definitely.
that if that happened? Let's just say that happened, and that
Hmm.
convinced you. Would that be evidence to convince the next person?
Oh no, because they didn't witness that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
So
but I have a good one for
what I'm
that
saying
also.
is that the thing that convinced me, it was enough to convince me, and it was a personal conviction, and was enough to prove the existence of that God to me. And that's why I'm saying that it isn't. It's not something that I can convince you with, but it was enough to convince me. In the same way, is that if something like that was to happen, it would convince you, but it wouldn't necessarily convince the next person.
Uh,
So each individual has to have that kind of revelation, I think,
uh,
for
I
there to
disagree.
be.
Like first of all, like that's like the basics of my example, because if it happens right now, I would question my mind, but I would try to test that. Like I would call the people to check my room if they see the elephant,
Mhm.
if they also see, and if I see their reactions. I mean, like bring some people who understand about animals. Say, let's check. Yeah, it's real, right? I mean, look, it looks real. So let's be sure more. I mean, let's test. So, but if it
So
appears and disappears,
it wouldn't necessarily convince you. Actually, so
uh,
even if there was an elephant in your room right now,
okay, like with the details that I just
necessarily
brought,
wouldn't prove to you.
with the details that I just brought, I would be convinced. But like if it appears and disappears, just me observing, no, it's not.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
so
even okay. So let's put it this way. I'll try and rephrase this and put it in a slightly different way. Do you think that if there is an all powerful, all knowing creator, that he would be able to know what would convince you that he existed?
So, like, if he really exists right now, he must be knowing what I'm saying to you right now.
Hmm.
That must be in his knowledge because I know
Yeah.
myself. And if he knows me, yeah, that's a good example that he can give to me.
Okay. So um that God that you obviously don't believe in, but you're saying if that all powerful, all knowing God um obviously knows you, he would know what would convince you, regardless of whether it would convince somebody else. He would be able to convince you that he existed.
Yes, and but like it's even obvious to you and other people. So he would know that a baby elephant in my room right now could convince me. He must know that.
Yeah. And would and I'm going to keep go on to this. Would him knowing what would convince you of his existence require the anyone else having privy to that revelation for you to accept that he has provided you with the evidence that he knew would convince you? Would it matter if somebody else didn't believe in that to you?
Can you repeat the question?
So if an all-powerful God who is all-knowing and can convince you, he knows what would convince you
Mhm.
and provides you with the evidence to convince you because he already knows what would convince you, would it matter whether that evidence convinced somebody else?
Uh, oh, somebody else. Okay, first of all, like other people see the baby elephant in my room wouldn't convince other people. Maybe some of them, but not
No,
all
what
of
I'm
them.
saying is that even if they rejected your evidence, it was enough to convince you because
Yes, that's true.
it, it was a proof to you because God knows what would convince you.
Yep, yep, yep.
If you were convinced of that
Hmm.
because he provided you with the evidence that you required and he knew that
Hmm.
would convince you,
Yep.
and then you provided that to somebody else and they rejected it, would it now change your mind on whether you accepted that or not?
Okay, so uh, okay, no, it wouldn't change. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
other
So,
people don't believe in what happened, and I would say it's okay, man. I mean, if I were you, I wouldn't believe in too, because
yeah,
what I see an elephant in your room, and I don't know how it came there. So it's okay if they don't believe, but I'm gonna believe.
yeah. So that's where. So what I'm trying to really go to is that's what where I am.
Mm.
I had something that convinced me that God existed. I
Okay,
can't I can't use that as a
one
as
question.
evidence to prove to you, but it was enough to convince and change me from being an atheist into a believer. So
FL,
that's
FL.
the best I can offer. Because without the revelation of God, I don't think that I can prove to, and I don't think any Christian, I don't think any Muslim, I don't think any religion, whichever one is true, can convince somebody else. I
Okay,
think
FL. One
because I
question.
would never have accepted somebody else's personal anecdote, and I wouldn't.
Depends.
It
For me, it
required
depends.
belief to change me, but
Yes,
it was a personal change. So I
there's one detail, FL. Like your revelation, your evidence. Did you
mhm.
verify that with other people
To a certain degree, yeah,
to a certain degree?
to a certain degree.
Is it too personal? Can you share?
Um, I, I'm only here for the first time. Maybe in the future, or if I do come back,
Okay. Okay.
I'll delve into that a little bit.
Hmm.
But it was enough. Like I say, it was something personal, and it was something I had asked for, and I felt like it was revealed in the way that I had asked. I shared that with other people. It didn't, whether it convinced them, they were convinced that what the sign was true. Whether they were convinced whether that was from God is another thing.
Oh,
They,
but
they
that's not what I
verified
meant.
they verified what I had experienced. They could verify that. They couldn't verify that it came from God. That was a different thing.
Okay, verify that you had an experience.
Yeah.
I mean, but like there's a difference between maybe there's a difference between your experience and let's say my experience. Let's imagine
Of course.
I'm a
Of course.
believer because a baby elephant appeared in my room, and
Hmm.
other people also checked. Yeah, there was an elephant,
Yeah.
and so maybe your example is very different.
Mm.
So I
But
cannot analyze
let's
that.
say let's say that you have a baby elephant in your room right now,
Yeah.
and you verify it with numerous people.
Mhm.
I'm here. I can't see the baby elephant, and I can't and I can't have verification of that baby elephant.
Okay, I
Uh,
don't need you.
right.
I need to like check, check my I have to say sanity, like
Mm,
whether I am hallucinating. I wouldn't even say, "Hey, come, people! There's an elephant in my room." I would say, "Hey, can you please come?" That's all. I
right.
wouldn't say
But
there's an even an
if you told
elephant.
me that story and I rejected it,
But
and
that's
but
very
you were
normal.
convinced of it, it would make absolutely no difference to your belief of that, would it?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. Because I don't need your verification. I already
Exactly.
verified that, uh,
Exactly.
and
And that's where
yes,
I am.
Um, but what about your evidence? Is it like my baby elephant, or if it's something vague? Because
Um,
like no
yeah.
offense, FL, I
Yeah.
listened a lot of personal experiences so far, a lot
Of
of,
course. I'm sure
and
you have.
many of them they were so vague. It's not close to even a baby ant, not a baby
Yeah.
elephant. So I have suspicions, but like it's okay. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
insist about revealing your experience.
All I
Maybe
can
next time.
say, all I can say is that, like, is that if there is a personal God, or this a God of creation, and He is all powerful and all knowing, He would know what would convince each individual person, and would be able to provide the level of evidence that would convince that person in order to convince them, and that conviction would not require anybody else
Okay.
to believe it.
Good,
Like,
good one, good one.
I believe it my revelation, and it matters to me not in the slightest that you don't believe it. And I know that you wouldn't believe it, and I know that you don't, and that is fair enough because you're not in that position. And
Well,
my personal faith, my personal conviction is not to try to convince
I
you.
understand
I
that.
don't use it that way.
I really
You know?
understand it, but like
Yeah.
still there are problems here. I have one question for you,
Okay.
and my question will come by assuming that yes, there's a God, and yes, your experience was a real one. Okay.
Hmm.
My question is, do you think there are other people who had an experience, but it was not a God?
Um, I can't, probably, possibly, and I can't verify that. I
Yeah.
couldn't verify it either way, could
Hmm.
I?
Good,
You
good,
know?
very good. But if that's the case,
Yeah.
then that means how can you even yourself verify like your experience is a God involved experience or no God involved experience?
Mm.
If you can have an experience without God,
Mhm.
then having experience doesn't mean God exists.
Oh, no, I agree. I agree. But it was enough to convince me that there was a God. And so whether or not I am right is kind of irrelevant to where I am. I
So you,
was convinced, and so now I became a Christian. Now,
oh,
where like I say, whether I'm wrong on that, and I'm fully acceptant of the fact that I could be wrong. Everybody could be wrong. It does. There's we don't have undeniable proof of it. It was enough to convince me, and now I live my life as as a Christian, and I read the Bible as you said you would do. You study. I don't know necessarily, but agree with you with your statement that this is what a Christian should do. A Christian should just live a good life, and follow the teachings of Jesus. That's going to church and studying the Bible are just
It's an
kind of
example, man.
extras.
It was just an example.
Yeah,
It
I
was
know,
just
I
an
know.
example. Okay, now we understand each other,
Yeah.
and I don't have much things to say. Like, to be honest.
Yeah, I didn't come here to convince you or anything. I just saw your channel. I thought I'd pop in and just say, you know, just put forward that kind of view of that I cannot convince you, and
Mhm,
I
mhm.
know that people that, as an atheist, would like that. Not saying that you want to change, you become a, well. Actually, it sounded like it would be, you would be open to finding a god if there was a god, and he revealed himself and convinced you. I'm not here to convince you. I just wanted to come on and say that I did change from being atheist and it was because of a personal revelation. I think that the vast majority of people should not just follow what their parents taught them, because that is basically just, if you're doing it for the sake of it, just because your parents were with that belief, you should be convinced of your own belief. It shouldn't be just because you follow, the religion of your parents. If you are Christian and you grew up that way, I would say that you still should be trying to verify that you have the right religion, or the right belief. I don't think you should just follow. I'm not one of those people who say, "Oh, my parents were Christian, so I'm a Christian." So that's just the nature of things. I would still test and try to prove what I believed in. But I don't come from that. I do come from an atheistic background, so it was a very, very big change in my life. Um,
See,
it doesn't convince you. I know that it doesn't
mhm.
convince a lot of atheists.
It
But what I
shouldn't.
will say is that people who know me, who were not Christian, who are not Christian, do see at least a change in my persona and person.
That's normal, man. Like if people, when people have experience, it can change them a bit, or really in a very deep way. So that's a very possible outcome. And it's undeniable, yeah. But
Mm,
like when we run the logic, it doesn't necessarily mean yeah there is a God. And as I already said, and then, by the way, like thanks for just sharing your opinion. It gives me the chance to explain. Hey, wait a second. Like this is not how in general people do. Like we just fact check things, or whatever the experience is. We just go and fact check with other people. And when there's a mismatch, well, for example, if I say, "Hey, man, don't step up," because there's a dog in front of you, it seems very angry. Come on, like stop. And if the person say, "Hey, man, are you okay? I don't see any dog here,"
mhm,
and then we say, "Wait a second, there's a problem here." So, and that's how we proceeded, right? I mean, though we just engage with other people's, and other people are just like a reference for us, right? To accept things that exist around
mm.
us. And
I
and
agree.
if it
I
doesn't
agree with
happen, yeah, I would say, hey, wait a second, I might be delusional, and probably I'm delusional if I cannot, have an experience that I cannot just share. I mean, like the baby elephant, right? If it pops here, like, come on, like,
you. Mm,
if people see it, and okay, yeah, I mean, now I think, yeah, like there is an elephant here. It just popped into existence, and okay, I mean, at least I just verified it with other people. Like they don't know how it came, but at least I observed how it was coming. And but if it's just like a dream, or it's an experience that people cannot instantly check, like the supernatural event, or at least the consequences of the supernatural event, then
Hmm.
I would say agnostic. I would say, and even more than agnostic. I mean, like you said, like God knows, right? And if God gives me an evidence that I cannot check it with other people, that means this God doesn't know how to convince me. There's a problem
Oh,
here.
yeah, but that's what I'm. But that's explicitly what I asked.
Yeah, yeah.
If it was, if God existed and He is all knowing, then He would know what would convince you, and what would convince you might be different than what would convince me or would convince somebody else. And so God would be able to individually convince each individual in the way that would convince them, because he would
Uh,
know what would convince
I
them.
know
So
that. I
you
understand that.
might require something stronger than what I would need, or I might need something more in depth than the next
Yeah.
person.
But don't you
So,
think that, like, it to me it feels like your God doesn't know that, there are people who have, let's say, daydreaming or hallucinations or
mhm,
maybe schizophrenia. I mean, those people are having some experience that doesn't match with the reality.
mhm.
And he must know that, like, as a logical person could be quite, wait a second. Yeah, like that's a very like strong experience, but I mean, I cannot differentiate. Man, am I deluded? Oh, that was real or
Are
not?
you are you
And this God
somebody?
must know like that.
Yeah,
There's this problem. It's a problem.
I agree, but so now I would ask you as a person, do you suffer from these types of delusional events?
Of I didn't so far probably
Right.
that I am
So
aware of.
So if you did experience something that was kind of supernatural, or an event that was in that way, would your should your default position be, "Oh, I'm going crazy"?
Okay, the thing is, like, if well, there are crazy people, right?
There are crazy people, but maybe
Yeah,
God
but
wouldn't utilize that as a way of convincing that person, because that wouldn't be a good way of convincing that person. But to you, who doesn't experience this type of mental disorder,
mhm.
or
But there's a problem there also. Well, what I
okay.
was gonna say about the crazy people,
Hmm.
there is first for them also, right? Like for a time they also didn't have such kind of problems, and there was a time for the first time they had the problem. So just because you didn't have any problems so far, that doesn't mean you're
Hmm.
not gonna have any problem.
That's a good point. That's a good point. But so yeah, I agree with you on that. But it would mean also that if it wasn't a god, then that would be a sign that you may be experiencing the first signs of a mental illness. Now,
If it
if it
wasn't God,
if it if it wasn't, but if it is a god, then you wouldn't be experiencing the first signs of a mental illness, and
hey, like,
that
so you
and
like
that wouldn't
what you're
be a
saying
proof
in a
then.
nutshell, if it was from God, yeah, then it's a real experience. If it's not from God, yeah, like I mean, yes, I mean that's the case. Totally, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I don't know what you can get from that. Still, like we have a God who is not aware of a problem. How people can like? I mean, you're saying that yeah, like he knows that I'm gonna believe in that. That's why he just gave me this one.
Hmm.
But he didn't know that you're gonna talk to some people that explains you that there's such a problem. How to confirm things.
So if you then went and obviously had tests and made sure that you were not delusional and you weren't suffering from these some kind of mental illness, and it was shown that way, uh,
Mm.
why would the default position be that actually no, I am suffering from delusional?
Okay, well, here's the thing. Let me share one experience that I had. Like when I was in the army, like there was a time that I didn't sleep for 2 or 3 days. Probably it was two. and I was so fucking tired, and I started seeing dinosaurs and UFOs, and like other different things, or dead
Hmm.
people also.
Hmm.
And even in that state, like, I was not scared, because I said, okay, this is most likely fucking my brain, right?
Hmm.
And I know myself, like, I didn't have such kind of experience before, and now I'm in a kind of very harsh situation. Most likely, this is why I'm having this experience. And later on, I have never had such an experience too.
Hmm.
So, well, what I'm trying to say, like, if you had an experience, that doesn't mean, like, uh, you were supposed to have similar ones prior or after that. So you may have one experience still, it might be just an experience, like, just your brain playing games with you.
Hmm. So, okay, and I like the point there. My pushback would be that on those times that you were having those experiences of that, you were not seeking or asking for a specific sign from God at that particular moment. These are clearly episodes that you are having because of a certain situation.
Okay.
Now, the
Now,
difference would be is if you were at that time asking for experiences of visions of dead people from
mhm.
your God,
What
and
about
then you
this then?
experience
Then
that,
what about
then you
this?
could conflate the two.
I understand,
But
like,
if you were just at today while you were not tired and you're not going through any kind of episode, if you were then to sit around and say, I would like to see a baby elephant in my room, and you experienced that, would that be a sign that you were having an episode? Would that be the default position, that you were actually having an episode after that you had specifically asked for a sign from a specific
still,
god?
it would be, by the way, like, it increases the chance to have an experience when you are deeply seeking something. Like, I can give you the
Hmm.
example of a man searching for water in the desert. Still,
Hmm.
like, it's not the same case, but you may see things that you're searching for, but it doesn't mean what you see is real also.
That is a point. Yeah, you have to take that into consideration, and I agree 100%. So I'm not going to push. I'm not going to try and, as I said, I'm not trying. I'm just trying to to talk and have a conversation about all of these types of things. I'm really not trying to say that you should be a believer because I believe in something. I'm
Totally
just,
get that.
yeah, we're just looking at the different scenarios about what happens, and I do agree that there would be times in extreme cases like that that you could see something that wasn't there. Um, but I do think that what we're now looking at extreme situations and saying, okay, if somebody is just a regular person and is seeking something, uh, that isn't necessarily. Now, I'm not saying that it can't be, because there are people in desperation times, and a lot of people in very low uh, times of their life, they do seek, and like you say, they're probably more susceptible for something in their brain to kind of try to seek out a reality that is beyond this, because they're so desperate. And I agree that there would be times when that would happen. But I would also say that we also should not just focus on the extremes, because I don't believe that all of these occasions where people do have these kind of episodes, or we're only talking about some kind of visual episode
Okay,
at the moment.
NFL, but yeah, yeah, that was an extreme. Like, that's why I said
Yeah.
it's not fitting. But like, I had other experience. Like, when I was searching an item, okay, like, I don't know, like, just about something. Okay, an item. Like, I sometimes was feeling, hey, yeah, yeah, I found it. Like I was seeing that, but then I realized, no, it's not. It's not. And it's not an extreme situation. And like
Mm,
again, our brains like pattern seeking and like can try to please us sometimes in a way that can be so vivid experience for us. So, but you are telling me that like, and I don't know the level of your, how to say, search or
mm,
the feelings that you get from questioning the evil on earth and other
mm.
things. So, but yeah, probably you're desperately seeking for God. Is it true?
I don't know that I was desperately seeking for God. I think I was desperately seeking for some kind of answer to what was the reality of this world. I don't think that I was in any um, kind of really bad place or anything. I just saw that there was a lot of evil and horrible things going on in the world, and I was kind of seeking an answer to that. Um, and I my my search, I would say, lasted at least a year, and maybe more before I was kind of convinced of that there was some kind of higher power. And I think it took me longer than that to kind of come to the conclusion that it was a Christian God. I read the Quran. I looked into quite a few different religions and things, and ultimately I've come to the God of the Bible, and I've come to a belief that is contrary to the vast majority of Christianity. But that is my own personal search. That is my own personal study. I've studied for a long time since became Christian, um, and I don't know that I was ever in any kind of desperation that if I hadn't found that it would be fundamentally life changing. It would just mean that this world was crap, and there was nothing beyond it, and I just would have to deal with that. So yeah, but again, this is, I'm just trying to give you, my own personal view on the subject, and really try to point out that I don't think that I could ever convince you, um, and I honestly don't think that anybody else could, unless they came along with a proof that was undeniable to kind of humanity, as in God had come and revealed, and it was something that everybody saw. Now, could God do that? Of course, if he exists and he is all powerful, he could do that. Why he doesn't do that is something that I cannot answer. I don't know why God doesn't do that. Does that mean he doesn't exist? It could be, of course. I could be wrong on that, and it could be that the reason why God doesn't come and show himself to everybody is because he doesn't exist, and that is of something that will always remain a possibility, even though I am convinced that that isn't the reality. It still remains a possibility. Um,
Yep, it's good to see that like that there are a lot of things like just staying there from your atheism. Yeah, you at least you understand like the case. So and you understand what logic dictates here. But I
hmm.
understand also. I mean, I'm okay with that. So and thank you, Miko, for the gift for memberships. So we have 6 members or 5 new members. I don't know how it works, but yeah, at least 5 new members. Thank you, Miko. So,
I'll jump out and let somebody else come in and talk, because I
no,
think I probably talked enough, and maybe people want to listen to somebody else's perspective. And I just wanted to come in and introduce myself, and because like I say, I've seen your channel before. I've seen you talk to people. I had 5 minutes to have a chat and just kind of put my perspective on things, and show you that not all Christians, whether we may be crazy in our, to atheists that we believe in God and everything, but we're not all kind of fundamentalist in that we cannot see that there are reasons why people are not atheist, and why we can't convince you of the opposite sense. We're not all, so blinded that God exists and you're stupid for not believing in it is so blatantly obvious. I don't come from that position, so I just think that all I would say to people is that if you are on a search for God, and if you are truly open to it, then it is something that I do personally feel that can be revealed. Whether it does, I don't know. I don't control that. I don't have the ability to do that. All I can say is, if I think that there it needs to be a genuine openness, not just saying for the sake of it that you're open to being convinced. I think that you genuinely have to be kind of searching, and you also need to kind of be searching in a way that, like I said, something that would convince you. Now, you may never receive that, and that's I can't give you that, but that is between you and the God that I believe in. And if he exists and he reveals himself, then that's a good thing, but to me. But you may never. I cannot promise anybody, and wouldn't promise anybody, that if they were searching that they will find. That's not for me to. But all I will say is that if you are genuinely searching, there is that possibility. But it
Yeah,
has to be genuine.
I felt like you said a lot of times genuine, and that thing a little bit disturbs me, and I don't feel good about that way of presenting what might happen. But you understand, right? Like, even if someone is genuinely searching and
Mm-hmm.
then having the experience, still it doesn't prove God exists.
It wouldn't prove it to somebody else. Yeah,
No,
it
no,
may very well prove to that
but
person. Yeah.
logically, let's, like, you remember my question to you. So my question was, do you think there are people who are having experience but it's not from God? So those people, or one of them, might be someone who was genuinely searching. He
Mm-hmm.
got the experience, but the experience was not from a God.
Okay.
So again, logically, th- even if, like, you are genuine and you found good evidence or experience and it's only for you, still it remains like an experience, not justified. May Maybe, yeah, it was just something
Just an
that doesn't
experience.
match with the reality that we share.
Mm-hmm. And that would remain a possibility.
Yeah. Anyway, FL, it was nice, and thanks for joining and sharing your experience.
No problem.
Yeah, now we will go and search for other people. We don't have them ready here in this room. We'll jump. We'll try to find. Yep. Okay. Okay, man. Thanks for being patient and honest and polite. He might not be hearing right now, but yeah, he was nice. He was polite. He was calm. That's all we need to have a good discussion here. And thank you again, FL. And yeah, thank you, Miko. Yeah, thanks for the likes, thanks for memberships, and welcome, Dart Gently. So we are trying another room.